Hey out there, legal warriors. If somebody misses a court date, there's likely a warrant for their arrest if the court date was for a criminal matter. If it's for a traffic infraction, it's something else. If it's for a civil hearing, it's typically something else. If you know someone who's missed a court date, or you have, and you want an answer to what to do about it, I'm going to cover that in this upcoming video. So if you're interested in this area of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm has been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington state for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. If we miss a court date in a criminal matter, the court is going to issue a warrant for our arrest. And most of us know what a warrant means, but in case you don't, a warrant is an order signed by the judge that gets filed with the police department in law enforcement databases. And it's an order that says, arrest this defendant, put them in jail because I want to see them in my court. They were supposed to come to a court date and they did not. And hold that person in the jail and bring them to me, and only let them out before you bring them to me if they post that amount of money. A $5,000 warrant would take $5,000 in cash, or typically a 10% fee to a bonding company who would keep that 10%, $500 in this case, to post a bond that would get you released from the jail before they took you to the court. Well, why shouldn't I just wait and be taken to the court? Well, do you want to wait in jail overnight? If it's the weekend, 2 days, 3 days, maybe court won't be for a week. They can hold you there indefinitely until the court learns you're there. They might have to ship you places. So yes, you should try to get out of jail if you can. And if you have that warrant, how do you know you have a warrant? Well, sometimes you don't. If you missed a notice of a court date for a charge that happened in the past, you might not know you have it. You might suspect you have one. Well, was it supposed to go to court or not? So if you're not sure if you have a warrant, you can reach out to law enforcement. You can reach out to the court. And when I say reach out to law enforcement, I would say give a phone call. Don't walk in and say, do I have a warrant? Because then they're going to arrest you if you have one. You can reach out to an attorney. So let's say you learn you have a warrant. What do you do about it? Well, there's one thing you probably don't want to do. You probably don't want to walk into the jail and turn yourself in, because then you're in jail. If you don't have the money to post the bail, don't give up. You may be able to get on a warrant quash calendar or have your warrant quashed in some other way. Quash, Q-U-A-S-H, not squash like a lot of people say. And you call an attorney. The attorney is going to likely know how that works locally. Or if you're afraid to call an attorney, you can call the court and say, hey, here's my name. Do I have a warrant? What are the warrant quash procedures, if any? Some courts will say, hey, too bad. You just have to turn yourself in. Those are few and far between. Usually the court wants to make it so they're going to be able to see you. Sometimes they're going to say, we'll put you on a warrant quash calendar and leave the warrant out for your arrest, but you can come in on a certain date that we're going to tell you about, and you can explain why you missed court. If the court thinks it's a good reason, and they usually do, then they're going to cancel the warrant, quash it, and then set you a new court date usually. If the court doesn't think it's a good reason, they could arrest you, but that almost never happens. I've seen it happen once in a couple decades. So it has to be pretty bad and pretty old before most courts would do that. They might also tell you, hey, you don't need to come to a court date. You can come to the front desk and sign for a new court date. Or you can come to the front desk and pay $100 and get a new court date. There's different variables, different ways they do it. And sometimes I get a call from the public and say, hey, Lance, are they going to arrest me when I show up? Is this a trick? And I often tell people, no, it's not a trick, because it's not worth it to them to do that. They're trying to get you in front of the court, right? They're not likely to call the police downstairs, come take them away. Because, again, the goal is to get you in front of the court. Hopefully your case isn't so serious that that's how they do it. Now, on major felonies, again, you always want to talk to an attorney as well, because if you got a $250,000 warrant, there may be nothing we could do in that case. So if you sign for a new court date, then you have a new court date. You pay money for a new court date, you have a new court date. What do you want to do? Show up for the new court date, because every time we miss a court date, the warrant usually gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, if we miss a jail commitment or something, then there's going to be usually a no bail warrant because you owe them the time you missed anyway. That's a little different than what we're talking about. Once we have the warrant taken care of, then it's not really on our record. It's not like on our criminal history. Should we ever get another crime out there and we get arraigned, they'll look at your warrant history and setting bail. But usually it's not going to be a long-term mark against us unless we're back with a whole new crime and there's an argument to make you post money because you have a history of failing to appear. So what if you just ignore the warrant? What happens? Do the police come looking for you? It depends. If it's a major felony like King County, yeah, they're probably going to come looking for you. If it's a misdemeanor, they're probably not going to come looking for you. Well, how do they catch people then if they're not looking for them? Well, it's in a law enforcement database. You get pulled over for speeding, they run your name. There's a warrant, you get hauled away. You're a passenger, they want to identify you. You make the mistake of actually identifying yourself as the passenger, and you get hauled away. You fly internationally. Usually flying internationally, coming back in, you fly directly into Washington State internationally. I've seen people get arrested there. It could happen flying domestically within the United States, but I think it's less likely from a much less background check, right? TSA is not getting warrant notices when you go through, at least not that I've ever seen. Things could change. So if that's ever happened to anyone, feel free to put it in the comments and you can give me some additional education if we're talking about domestic travel only. I've had people call me with a warrant out for 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, right? They're taking Ubers, they're driving perfectly. It's best that we eventually deal with the problem because warrants can cause other problems. Sometimes it keeps us from getting a job. If it's a warrant for a traffic matter, we might have a suspended license from it. So we want to take care of the warrant. And if we're at a review hearing status, it's a probation hearing, we don't want to take care of that warrant until we're compliant in probation. So please call a really good attorney if it's a review hearing warrant, because the timing of quashing that warrant will affect whether or not you're in jail or whether or not you're free. We've got some videos on review hearings on this channel as well. Probation hearings, review hearings, make sure you watch those if that applies to you. If it's a traffic infraction, speeding or something, you miss a court date, you're not going to get a warrant, but you're going to get a suspended license unless you deal with it. You'll get a notice from the Department of Licensing saying, hey, there's a failure to appear on this case. Pay your fine by this date or else you lose your license. What if you miss a civil case? Well, if you miss a civil case, depending on the type of the case, protection order hearing, it could be some type of lawsuit. If you don't show up when you're supposed to civilly, usually the remedies are a default judgment against you, or the other side gets whatever they were asking for in the civil case. So if someone's asking for a restraining order against you and you just don't show up, they're going to get their restraining order. If you're asking for a restraining order against someone else, if someone else shows up, the respondent and the petitioner, you don't show up, well, then your order gets denied and dismissed. So the only case where you get a consequence of arrest if you miss a court date, for the most part, I'm sure there's some exceptions someone can come up with, but it's criminal cases where we miss a court date. Sometimes we miss a court date, you don't get a warrant issued, you get an attorney there who does a good dance, right, and gets it continued without a warrant. Sometimes it's an arraignment and you miss that court date, but they do an address search and show that they sent it to not all the right places. Sometimes the judge will not issue a warrant, give you a new time, new date. But remember, they don't have to prove you got notice for the warrant to count. So many times people never got any notice. They moved. It took 2 years to charge it. They learn 3 years later that they've got a warrant when they get arrested. It's pretty bad. So if you have a warrant, reach out to an attorney, reach out to the court, avoid law enforcement, at least in person. It's okay if you call them. Bottom line, most of the time we can quash it and keep you from going to the jail because that's no place any of us want to be. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. And more importantly, if you got a criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to give my office a call. If we get on board, we'll listen to what happened. We'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.